Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Jermaine Morgan TV. And yeah, you read it right. I'm not much of a Fender guy, but this joint right here might change my mind. Stay tuned. All right, so the guys over at Sweetwater sent me this cool jazz bass to try out, and I wanted to just kind of give some real thoughts, give my real opinion about it. As you guys know, if you've been following me for a while, I'm not much of a Fender guy, but surprisingly, I started out like my first professional bass that I purchased was a bass similar to this. It's not quite like this one, but it was very similar. I had a red Fender Jazz Deluxe Mexican, almost just like this for the most part, but there were some slight differences in it. That bass had, I think it was an alder body maple neck and a rosewood fretboard, whereas this one has pretty much similar setup, but this one is using a powerful. That was a hard word for me. Hard word for me to say, but it's using, in place of the rosewood, it's using the powerful fretboard, and it's a slightly different tone in my opinion. To me, it has just a little bit more grit to it, and other differences that my original bass had that this one didn't have. It definitely didn't have the noiseless pickups, so I definitely had a little bit more buzz happening than this particular bass has happening with it. With the noiseless pickups, you hardly hear anything when you're recording. This one actually has an 18-volt preamp, and it has a passive and active switch on it, so you can clearly hear the difference from the passive to the active, and I really like that feature. So it records really well on the passive side. I've already recorded some on both passive and active, and I'm very pleased with what I get out of both. Now, this is me running the bass passive. And so if I do that same thing with it active, you can clearly hear more definition. I'm personally more of a fan of the active preamps. Not that I have anything against passive basses, because I'll play those as well, but just for what I like personally, I like to hear a little bit more definition in the tone of the bass. But one of the things that really draws me into this bass, of course, classic Fender, is that slap tone that you get from the bass. So you can hear it, a lot of definition there. Even when I play that thump or slap tone on the passive side, it's still a really, really nice tone. It's just not as aggressive. You lose a lot of the intensity when you're not playing with the active, but that's pretty much any preamps. I think these are standard set of strings, regular gauge, 45 to 125 in terms of the gauges of the strings. Now, one thing I didn't want to fail to mention was the actual low B string on these basses. Fenders are known for having a really good response on that low B string. So if you're a person that likes playing that low B, you get a lot of beefiness and a lot of meat with that low B string. So if you're looking for that, you have a lot of even there. So let's see what it sounds like on the passive side. the mid-range. This is a passive mode using that. Let's go straight all the way to the back pickup. So let's do that, the same exact thing. And I pretty much have the mids boosted all the way, as you can see here. I'm gonna back off to the highs just a little bit so we can hear a little contrast. So the same thing, but we'll do it on the active side this time. And then even with the so you can hear there's a lot of versatility with this. And if you want to blend them, a lot of times when I'm going to that back pickup, I like to get a little bit more of that front pickup involved. So I'll blend them here. You can hear that's a much warmer tone with that back pickup. Now that's the only drawback that I don't like. I'm more of a 24 fret guy. I like to have a little bit more area. This was my cons to this bass. This was a little bit more difficult to kind of get accustomed to, because I'm used to smaller necks in terms of being able to kind of skate across the fretboard with ease. I noticed playing a Fender bass, one of the things that made me pull away from playing, you know, the more traditional type basses is I feel like I have to work a lot harder. I play a little bit more aggressive on these basses, and I work to get away from playing so aggressive. But if you're a person that likes that, that's cool. But for me, you know, my hands had a tendency to start hurting after a while if I'm playing a long, super long set. But this bass, I noticed that the spacing of the frets, as any standard Fender, the spacing of the frets is definitely a lot wider, especially as we get closer to the end of this fretboard here. And I'm used to having that extra range. I do like to play chords and, you know, kind of do a little extra stuff. Y'all can call it extra. I do like to do a lot of stuff and get closer down to the 24 fret. But if you're not that kind of guy and you're meat and potatoes and you don't want to do all that extra stuff, this is definitely a good solution if it's something that you're looking into, if you are a Fender guy. The funny part is I was kind of interested in getting another Fender bass anyway, because I did miss the slight versatility of having that Fender sound. You're able to get a lot out of different basses. Even with the Warrior, I'm able to get a lot of different tones, but it's hard to mimic that particular sound if you're looking for that in general. I definitely wanted that back in my arsenal, a Fender Jazz back in my arsenal. So I was very interested to demo this bass and to give my thoughts about it. And I was interested in the wood choice with the bass, as opposed to going with a maple or a rosewood fretboard. I was really interested in what this would sound like. And I must say, I'm very pleased with what I'm hearing. I'm very pleased with this bass. Now, if you're interested in learning a little bit more in depth about this bass, because y'all know I'm not a really technical guy, but I will put a link below where you can kind of read up on the specs and kind of find out for yourself if there's something you want to add to your arsenal. I just wanted to give you my thoughts. And for me, this might be a keeper. I'm not saying I'm going to turn into a Fender guy, but this definitely going to be a keeper for the arsenal. So do me a favor, let me know in the comments what you think about this bass. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the passive, or do you prefer the active preamp sound? Which one fits your taste better? Which one that you like in terms of what I played? But make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you don't miss any time that I put out new videos or any time that I go live. And I will see you guys on the next one. I'm out. Thank you guys. Peace.